The year is 1998, and we, as time traveling movie producers, have been sent back to take a look at the Star Trek film Insurrection. We're going to fix it. Cue the intro.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mirror Movie Universe podcast. I'm Nate, one half of the shindig of the hosts of this show. That's not what I usually say, but that's not what I'm going with now. Then across the aisle and across the country from me is Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hey, everybody. You're like Data right now. You're like just
I am malfunctioning and I'm a jumbled up mess, just like the plot of this movie. What's that? It was all intentional the entire time. Yes. Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're going to have to talk quite a bit about this one.
Yeah.
But in order to talk about what we like, which might be a short list, we're going to have to talk about what happens in Star Trek Insurrection. So Star Trek Insurrection mostly focuses on one planet. Where there's this seemingly primitive civilization going on, and the Federation are observing it with like cloaked suits and stuff like that, and hollow projected, facilities inside of a cliff face or whatever. They're observing these people, which the Federation is known to do. You're not supposed to mess with ye olde civilizations until they get warp technology. It's called the Prime Directive. But one of the people starts going rogue, and it's Data, and he's taking out all of the other Federation guys, and he's blasting the holodeck things so the primitive people, can see them, which is a big no-no as far as Starfleet goes. There's an admiral who informs Picard of this. His name is Admiral Dougherty, and he's a little skeevy looking guy. And he's like, hey, we should shut Data down. And Picard's like, no, I can go and save him. Worf is there from Deep Space Nine by coincidence because it's 1998 and that's still running. Have you been watching it? Because you should. They go to this planet, and they're met in space by some ships, by an alien race called the Sona, who are pretty obviously bad guys from the start, but somehow we don't realize that immediately. So we go down to the planet. Picard sings some Gilbert and Sullivan tunes to shut Data down. It's a long story, and they find that instead of taking hostages, everyone is pretty happy among this primitive civilization, and they find out that this primitive people actually has warp technology. Not only that, but they gave it up on purpose and now live incredibly long lives on this planet because they're like
they're basically just like space Amish people.
They're like space Amish people, nearly immortal space Amish people. Picard has a budding romance with this lady in the village who's like way older than him. She's like 300 or something like that. And she has vague notions about exploring and how cool that is and all this. So they're having a great time. But it turns out that the Sona, who are this alien species, want to irradiate the planet with some kind of collector that will take all of the life-giving fountain of youthness off of the planet and give it away so they can use it on themselves because they're like kind of degenerating as a race, and give it to the Federation. And Admiral Dougherty, that totally upstanding guy from the start, is in on it. And they're going to try to get the Baku people, who are this primitive civilization, off of the planet without them knowing it. And Picard is ordered by Admiral Dougherty to, just kind of go along with this. Picard's like, you can't relocate 600 people to save 4 billion. That's not okay, I guess. And so he kind of goes rogue. He takes the captain's yacht down to the surface with most of the crew, like Crusher and Troy and Data and Worf, and Geordi and Riker start steaming away in space at full head of steam to deliver a message to the Federation, being like, hey, this is messed up. So they lead all of the village people away into the hills where it'll be harder for the bad guys to catch them. There's some fight scenes. And the conflict ends up with Picard captured, along with all of the rest of the people. He gets out of the Sona ship with the help of a more sympathetic one of their group. And then we learned that the Sona and the Baku used to be the same race of people, but there were some Baku who left to make war amongst the galaxy. And they were basically adolescents when they did so, and they're degenerating now because of it. There's some holodeck trickery and such. And we have a couple of fun moments with Worf and Riker. Riker flies the ship with the manual joystick. It's all very silly. And Picard does a showdown with the Sona leader on this big collector guy. His name is Ruafo. I haven't even mentioned that yet. That's how forgettable of a villain he is. By the way, Admiral Dougherty's dead. He's been dead for like 45 minutes. I didn't even mention that. That's how forgettable of a villain he is. And the thing blows up and Picard gets beamed out at the last second. And the Baku can stay on their planet. And people across the galaxy will not be healed. And we won, I guess. So that's Star Trek Insurrection. Dan, I'm going to ask you the hardest question I've ever asked you in your life. What do you like about Star Trek Insurrection, good sir?
Well, it's not going to be the hardest question ever because you're going to ask me what I like about Nemesis in the next episode, which is a far worse movie.
All right, fine.
So first off, I think so. Jonathan Frakes is back as the director, and I think he does a really good job directing it. It's really fantastic. He gets blamed because you blame directors when movies don't do well, and I don't think it's his fault.
No,
Michael Piller,
it's shot just fine.
It's shot just fine.
Yeah.
Michael Piller wrote this, and this is so weird. Okay, so when they knew that they were going to do what wound up being First Contact, the idea from the Paramount executives were like, "Hey, Brandon Braga and Ronald D. Moore, you write a script. Michael Piller, you write a script, and we'll see which one we like better." And Michael Piller was like, "I'm not going to do that."
Yeah,
and they were just like, "Okay, well then you just write the next one." So, and he wrote a book about writing this movie. It's really fantastic,
really?
and he sums it up well. Like, it's really interesting to see everything that happens to make it into what it was, but he sums it up really well. And after he saw it, he was walking out of the theater and he was listening to some fans, and one of the fans just goes, it's an even numbered one or an odd numbered one or whatever it was. Just saying, like,
falling into that old trap. Yeah.
And I don't think that Insurrection is bad. In fact, I think it's actually really good. It plays out a lot like an episode of The Next Generation, which is not a bad thing. The episodes of The Next Generation are great. You mentioned the HMS Pinafore thing. That's one of my favorite moments of the whole movie.
Oh, it's great. It's great when he's saying, yeah.
So Patrick Stewart is next to Michael Dorn as Worf, and they're trying to get data, and he's like, "Oh, before he went on, it went crazy here. We was learning HMS Pinafore. Mr. Worf, do you know Gilbert and Sullivan?"
I have not had time to review the ship's roster since I returned because he doesn't know. Yeah. He doesn't know who they are.
Oh, but they sing, and it's "Sing, Worf, sing." It's so fantastic, and they get Worf. It's great to see Riker and Troy rekindle their romance here. That's a really nice character moment for both of them to do, and really great that they do that. My favorite character moment, though, has to belong to Geordi.
Oh, because he can see for like a moment on this planet. Yeah.
He is my absolute favorite character from The Next Generation. And the original plan for this character was back in like season 2, they were going to come up with a way to cure his blindness. But LeVar Burton, who's the actor who plays him, got so much fan mail from people praising him for doing such a good job of portraying someone with a physical disability. He said, "I will never like have Geordi be cured." Even though like the visor gave him terrible headaches and all of this stuff, he stuck with that. And it is, I think, the most beautiful moment in the whole thing. He sees a sunrise for his first and last time. And it's absolutely beautiful to see him see that. And the music swells. It's a great moment. It's just absolutely heartwarming and amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing I really love about this, I love the central theme of this movie. The theme is not nature versus technology. The theme is not the fountain of youth, though it's kind of, there are tinges of that throughout, and hints of it. The theme of this is the trolley problem, which is an ethics problem that basically says, okay, if there's a trolley and it's going down the track and you switch it, there's one person on this track, 3 people on this track. You can change it and it will hit one person instead of 3. Do you do it?
Yeah.
And like you said in your recap, 600 people. You're going to kill 600 people to save billions. Picard says no.
Yeah.
I don't think he's right. I mean, he certainly thinks so. He has a great speech, a Picard speech, where he's like, "How many does it take to be wrong? 1,000, 10,000, a million?"
Yes.
But I don't know if he is. And I
Mhm.
think that the film does a disservice by not debating it very much. But
Mhm.
it is really fascinating to think about. And I've
Yeah.
always said, like, we've said this like 4 times already on different episodes. Great science
Mhm.
fiction makes you think about stuff and it's entertaining. This film is
Mhm.
certainly entertaining at points. And if you really lean into that ethical problem, it's really fascinating to think about. Is he right? Are
Mhm.
they doing the right thing? You could save billions at the cost of 600.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if Picard is right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I love that that theme is there. And of course, it's in a Star Trek Next Generation movie where they
Yeah.
have that theme.
Oh, I'm with you. It's one of the things that I like about the movie. I don't hate Insurrection much as my much as it might have seemed, but here's the thing. I hated recapping Star Trek Insurrection because it is a jumbled up mess plot wise.
Oh, yeah.
It's still a fun movie though. And I it's not my least favorite one, but it's hard to recap because so much stuff just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Um I do like that it has a central moral question. I it feels like an episode of TNG, even though there's an episode of TNG where Picard does the opposite of this, like in season 6 or something. But yeah, I like how that moral question exists. I really enjoy a number of the plot devices. I think that they lean so hard into like holodeck stuff is great because there's trickery on the bad guy side and the good guy side where they trick each other into believing that they're in a certain environment that they're actually not. It's central to how the climax is resolved. And that's quite wonderful as well. I think that the characterization of a number of people is hit or miss.
Hmm.
Data, not so great in this movie. Picard, very much not so great in this movie. Um, uh, Riker, like you said, is pretty great. Troy's pretty great. A number of the other people are in the middle. Geordi's moment's wonderful, but my last like about this is Worf, as because like when they're on the planet, the radiation, like I said, it healed Geordi and all of this kind of stuff, but it also makes you feel quite younger.
Mm-hmm.
And Worf like goes through puberty again, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets a pimple. It's hilarious, but he's like, hey, Klingon puberty is dangerous. We just kill everything. So I might be a problem. And Picard's like, well, if you experience any aggressive tendencies, let me know. And there's a bit where he runs out of ammo in his rifle, and there's like a robot drone thing coming towards him, and he just like hits it with his rifle, and it blows up. And he turns to the camera and he's like, "Definitely feeling aggressive tendencies, sir." And it's great. I love the inclusion of that little thing for his character because Worf as a young man is something that I think is wonderful. He's my favorite Klingon, so I like that a lot. There's a lot to like about this movie, as much of a mess as it
Yeah.
is. But you got to fix part of that mess. What are you gonna fix, Dan?
Yeah.
What do you fix up about Insurrection?
So I'm going to lean into the trolley problem that I talked about, lean more into that moral
Yeah.
conundrum, and I'm going to replace a scene. So there's a scene
Mm-hmm.
right before like the third act of this film where
Mm-hmm.
all of our central main good guy characters meet up in the hallway of the Enterprise, and they're like, "We're going to go down to the planet, and you're going to be on the ship," and da 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 da
Yep.
da, and they
Has one of
recap
my
everything.
least favorite lines where Data says "saddle up, lock and load." I
Yes.
don't like that.
Well, don't worry, it's gone because that scene
Cool.
is gone. And also, weirdly, they're in the costumes. Like their costumes say exactly what they're gonna do. Like the people going down to the planet are in like
Like
drab
street
civilian
street
clothes.
clothes.
Everybody
Yeah.
else is in
Mhm.
their uniform. So what I want to do is have a moment where Picard is with the senior staff. So them plus a couple other people. There's the security chief from First Contact who's
Mhm.
back in this one. And then you've got like the Trill lady who's driving the ship at one point.
Mhm.
So get them in there too. and have it be Picard is like, okay, so we know that what they're doing is wrong. We have to go down to the planet. We have to stop this and everything. And then just have it kind of be crickets in the room. As the rest of the senior staff is like, I don't know about this. And then, Worf can chime in and say, yes, what they're doing is not honorable. And Data's like, yeah, my programming won't allow me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn to Riker, and Riker's like, I don't know, Picard. Like, I'm happy to broadcast it to the Federation. I'm happy to take the ship out of the cloud, broadcast it. I don't know if Admiral Doherty's right. I don't know. And then Picard can like look around the room, and everybody else is kind of like, and he just turns to Crusher and is like, Beverly. And she says, for you, Jean-Luc. And then, so like she agrees to go down with him. But it is interesting that like out of a crew of 400 people, like 5 beam down to help these people. And I think that it brings that kind of moral question more into question, because then it is like there's division among the crew. They divide a line between themselves about what they're going to do and why they're going to do it. So yeah, that's my fix.
So it fixes the same thing that I do.
Oh, interesting.
So I fundamentally disagree with the way it's done, though. Like, all of those character moments are really great, and it does. By the way, I also noticed that, like, with the clothes thing, like Geordi and Riker are still in their Starfleet uniforms, but all the people who, before they agree to go down to the planet, are already wearing gear because the costume department was lazy that day. And maybe that's like the only thing that I will criticize Jonathan Frakes' direction on is that
should have caught that.
Yeah, but all in all, he's a good director. I think that the character moments are really great. But I personally don't want to lean into the moral question.
Oh,
you're
interesting.
fixing it by leaning further into it.
Okay.
I want to lean all the way out of it. Because they spend time in this movie to connect it to Deep Space Nine, which you should watch. Because they send Worf back because he was on the show for a while, Deep Space Nine. They send him back into this movie. They're talking about it. They're talking about the Dominion War, which is a big thing in the last few seasons of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And they directly reference it a couple of times. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a thing that healed all of these people in the Dominion War, a war that at this point, if you're watching Deep Space Nine, which the movie references several times, the Federation is losing badly. Really, yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm not even the first person to come up with this. There are 800 billion lives at stake. I'm pretty sure at this point in Deep Space Nine, Beta Z, Troy's home planet, has been invaded, conquered, and almost destroyed. Like, there are billions of lives at stake. And they mention it like 4 times. Picard says it to Admiral Dowery. He talks about it to some of the people at like the reception party at the beginning. So I think that if you're going to do a little fix to this movie, zoom all the way out and remove all references to the Dominion War. Maybe set this after that's done. Maybe make it, so the Federation admiral's doing it for money or something. But like, get all the way out of this question. Don't even make it a question. Because if you are paying attention, and evidently this movie wants you to, because it references it like 4 times, it's obviously the wrong play. Like 800 billion people. So lean all the way out of that question. That's so opposite of your fix, as a matter of fact.
The interesting thing about that, though, is that so Worf is like on the ship because he just has like shore leave or something. Like, they don't do a great job of like writing why he's there. He's just like, I had time off, so I decided to come and say hi. Which is also weird because it's in the middle of this war, and you don't have to set it in the same time period. Like, this movie could take place right after First Contact. Like, this could be season 5 of Deep Space Nine instead of season 7, when things are going crazy. So I agree with you. Like, it seems very odd that they go out of their way to reference it. And like you said, for what? Like, they don't do a good job of bringing that into the central moral question, which they easily could.
Yeah.
And it is very jarring not to. So I think that you have to do either one or the other. You either have to bring it into the central thing and have Admiral Dougherty be like, Jean-Luc, think about all the Dominion War lives, blah blah blah, or like you said, just cut it, because who cares that it's the same year that it's released now? Like in the Star Trek universe, it can be,
you can do whatever
early.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just and you know, modern franchises like Marvel and stuff have the same problem where they tie the TV shows in or whatever, and it's handled really clunkily. This one is probably the worst example of that, where because they said it when they said it, not because they made it when they made it, but because they said it when they said it.
Yeah.
It just wrecks the central moral thesis of the film.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a writing problem. Yeah. You could fix it one of two ways. Audience, which way would you fix this central moral thesis problem? Would you lean all the way into it and split the crew up, not just physically, but, you know, morally along these lines? Or would you lean all the way out and cut a whole bunch of crap? That's our central moral problem. Tell us down in the comments in the doobly-doo.
Yeah, as always, like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna do Nemesis next, so wish us luck. And as always, we hope this finds you well, and have a great rest of your day.
See ya.